Talking Nonsense, Episode 2. This is now our third take on this, so I'm really hoping it works this time. Once again, just in case it doesn't work, I will introduce my guest again. Longtime friend of mine, grew up together, played ball together, went to school together. We've known each other our whole lives. Dallas Jones. I'm really glad that he agreed to come on here with me, and I'm really hoping that we can get this to work. We were just getting into some good conversation, and it just stopped, cut out on us, and I'm hoping it doesn't do it again. I may snap my computer in half if it does it again. So, just to kind of briefly catch up in case it didn't record or if it did. Dallas grew up on a farm like a lot of us here. He's heavily involved in it now, kind of run by him and his brother Chase after unfortunately losing Grandpa that was there by your side, teaching you everything you know about it. I don't really know how to go about this where we've already talked about everything. I don't know how to, nothing's going to be said the same. So I guess we can just kind of go into some of the other topics we had, and hopefully I've got the rest of it between the record I did separate and what it did get on here. So before it cut us off, we were just talking about how I had said I don't understand where we got away from just kind of minding your own business, being decent to people, and just living a life. And you said that you had a couple reasons of why you think that. I hope those thoughts are still with you.
Yeah, I think I can revive those.
Okay, so let's just, I'll let you go ahead and take it away from there.
Yeah, we were just talking about how the world's changed, I kind of mentioned a little bit since we went to school, during the Bush era. And it's not necessarily tied to politics or who was the president, but it just kind of gives us a timeline. And then, the Obama years, we kind of get introduced to some more things. Things changed a little bit. And then this Trump era, since 2015-16 when he, announced he was going to run, things really changed quite a bit in this, this crazy country, let alone world. And I mentioned how, I'm a black and white type person. I've always been that. Nothing's really ever been gray. There's maybe a few things, but I'm not a very imaginative person, not a very artsy type person. I'm very literal, like literal, as bad as it gets. So this type of stuff, it makes a lot of sense to me. Politics and religion and how they connect, and and why the world is like it is now. Why is it escalated so greatly and so much? We were just getting into talking before that, any of you out there that's familiar with the Old Testament or the New Testament, especially Isaiah, even a lot of the parables in the Gospels, Christ talked about, these last days, and we're living them right now. We're living in those prophecies. Talks about it in the Book of Mormon a lot. Book of Mormon is of the LDS faith. I'm not sure any of those listening out there. Most people will probably be, I'm sure, familiar with that. It's pretty common around these parts and in this state. So, but I've learned a lot about the world and why it is like it is, as part of that. I think that what we're doing right here, this technology stuff, has really enhanced the world and the wickedness, and the, just like we were talking about earlier, that we were into basketball big, and lived and breathed it, and and we're not the only ones, but I think it was more of the world was a little different back then. This technology and this cell phones and things, it's really made the world kind of kind of different, and it's gotten worse, and it's hard. And we were talking about earlier that how do you know anymore what's right and wrong? It's becoming more clear what side to be on, black and white, right and wrong. But at the same time, with AI and some different things, what exactly do you believe? What's true? And our prophet here, President Russell M. Nelson, he actually just passed away here into September, 101 years old, the oldest president of the LDS Church in this dispensation in the last 200 years. He actually gave a very good talk. It's probably been 4 or 5 years ago, but he told us here in the last days that the only way that we're going to survive spiritually is that if we have the constant companionship of the Holy Ghost to guide us in these last days, to let us know what's right and what's wrong, what we need to teach our kids, what we need to pay attention to. He's since passed on, and his predecessor, Dallin H. Oakes, is the prophet now, along with the other 12 apostles in the first presidency. There's 15 men now that we call them prophets, seers, and revelators, that are similar to the Old Testament prophets that I mentioned before, like Moses and Isaiah and Noah, and even the same as the apostles, Peter and John, in the New Testament. So we have men on the earth that lead us and guide us. They talk to us every April and every October for 2 days. They let us know, the latest things that maybe we need to be doing and working on. Some of it's secular, some of it's spiritual. I find, myself, I might not always watch it live, but guarantee you with technology now, as soon as it's uploaded, it's on my phone. I'm able to listen to it, even give lessons in church on it, when I'm asked, things like that. Refer to it. Try to remember what they tell us, and it's really helped me. It kind of goes back to that thing that Wasey asked me, kind of one of the first questions, what do you do to be happy, and what do you feel like when you're happy, and I think that's one of the things that makes me feel at peace. We talked about my grandpa passing here. He passed back in last February. It's almost been a year. I've never been a very emotional person. It takes quite a bit for me to shed a tear or anything like that, and it's not necessarily anything I'm proud of, or it's not a macho thing or anything like that. It's just my personality, how I was raised, had tough parents, tough coaches. That's just me. Doesn't mean that I don't care or don't have emotion, but I feel okay, with his death, and with other people that have passed on, because I know this isn't it. It's we have a life that come before this, and a life now, and there's a lot of life after, and so it just helps me feel better about that. Plus, the guidance of the prophets and apostles that we have now to help us and guide us to what we need to do. And we've got the scriptures from the ancient prophets and things as well. We've got, not just not necessarily tying that to religion. We can tie that back into politics, as well. That's the reason that people that are more religious, I think, no matter if they're a member of our faith or Christian or Buddhist, Hindu, Jewish, whatever religion out there, it's great. It's a good thing, I think, to look to a higher power, to a God, for peace and for comfort and for guidance. I think that's going to help any of us, no matter what it is. So anyone that looks towards that, it's going to be a great thing.
Well, I think I've heard some people say in the past that I don't think you'd classify them as very religious. They don't attend a church meeting or anything like that. They're good people, but they don't really go to church, I guess you could say. and they don't like, actually, some of them, they say they don't agree with certain things with the LDS church, but they don't agree with certain things with another church. And my opinion, and I don't know, but I don't think there's really anything wrong with that. I kind of think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but when we're kind of talking politics and religion, well, we had said before how in politics there's people that are so tied to one side or one politician that if you disagree, you're a bad person, or you're wrong, or you're a threat, or you're whatever they want to call you. So on the religion side of it, if because you and I are both LDS, right? I mean, I was baptized, I've been LDS. I have not been active for a long time, and I have reasons, and it's nothing against the church. Caitlin's family are faithful churchgoers. Her grandma has asked us in the past, if we're ever going to go back to church, and me personally, there's really not a way to put it without sounding, I don't know if arrogance, or not arrogant, but I don't want to. You know what I mean? I'm not sure that I have a solid answer as to why. We had the missionaries coming up a little bit when we first bought the house here, and they asked us the same thing, and I just told them, for me, I guess, I asked you what makes you happy. Well, one of the things for me is spending time here with my family. And, during the week, we all know how it is. We're all busy. We're all working. The kids are at school. Kids are at sports. After school, we're at sports with the kids. So to me, Sunday is kind of the only day that I have that I can just sit down with my family. And I know that, to go down to the church meetings, you're only there. Well, it's changed so much. It used to be 3 hours. I don't know. Is it still the same?
It's 2 hours.
2
now.
hours.
Yep.
So it's only 2 hours out of your day, and I understand that. But I had one of the missionaries here. He was telling me, about how when you attend your meetings on Sunday, that God has special certain blessings for you, right? By attending your meetings and stuff. And so my question to him was, so if you attend your meetings on Sunday to receive these special blessings that God has for you, does that mean that God's not going to give me any special blessings because I didn't go to church on Sunday? And his answer was no. He says, well, no, you'll still, there's still blessings that you can receive. And so to me, it kind of confused me, because it made it sound like, if we'll use us as an example because we're sitting right here together, and obviously this is not directed towards you in any way, but it kind of numbed for me, but for other people I think could take it this way, that kind of comes off as, okay, well, Dallas went to church on Sunday and attended his meetings, and Wasey didn't. So Dallas, being a better person by going to his meetings, is going to get these blessings, whereas Wasey might get a couple here and there, but it's not going to kind of be, you know what I mean? Like, it can come off that way. But another thing that we're always taught is God created everyone in his own image, and he created everyone equal, right? So if we're created equal, I guess maybe you're entitled to maybe more special blessings for attending your meetings than I am, and that's okay with that. I can understand that, because it kind of like a job, right? If you are going above and beyond, or you have a higher position in the company or something, then you're entitled to some more benefits, some more money. So it could kind of come that same way. But one thing that I've always not really struggled with, but always wondered about, is God really going to maybe punish me, or maybe not punish, but maybe keep me away from my family or something like that, because I don't attend my Sunday meetings? You know what I mean? Because on a daily basis, on every single day of my life, I try to be the best person that I can be. If there's somebody that needs some help, I will try to do everything I can to help that person. If somebody needed a place to sleep, my door's open. You know what I mean? I try to live that type of life, and I try to teach my kids that same thing. So, how, I guess, am I going to be in, because you know a lot more about the church than I do, and you know, just like you said, you served your mission, and you're active and attend. So, if you, again, this is just for an example, if you're doing everything by the book according to what the LDS Church is saying that we should be doing, and I'm doing, we'll say 80% of it, because I didn't serve a mission, and I don't attend the meetings. So at the final judgment day, am I going to watch you walk up the stairs while I have to, you know what I'm saying?
I understand.
So can you kind of...
Yeah. No, I can, hopefully I don't say anything that's, I don't think you're not offended very easily. No. I feel like I can talk openly.
Yeah, throw it out there.
So I'm simple, I'm cut and dried. So the number one question that if we haven't already asked ourselves this, we should. Why are we here? Mm-hmm. So the reason we're here, and there's a Book of Mormon scripture that tells us this, but we're here our time now here is to prepare to meet God. Not just to meet God, we're here to prepare to be God. And I know in other religions say that that's blasphemous, that the Bible doesn't teach that. Sorry for you other Christians out there, it does teach that, just not as plainly as some of the Book of Mormon and modern revelation that we have. But our whole purpose here is to become like God. He created us in His own image. We created our children our own image. That their goal is to become like us. Mm-hmm. So we're here to become like God, and so that's why we're all here. That's the whole purpose. So God wants us to become like Him. He is, full of happiness, full of joy, full of glory. So He wants us to have that, just like we want our children to have what we have. That's why we have certain bedtime rules or, schoolwork things, stuff like that, because we want what's best for our children, and He wants what's best for us. He's a very merciful God. He's not like... that's one of the things with Joseph Smith restoring the church in the last days and bringing it back from its original state back in the New Testament, is he revealed some things that had been lost. And majority of the Christian world, 99%, think that 99% of us are going to hell. And I hate to tell you, 99% of us are not going to hell. Majority of us are saved, and that's because of Jesus Christ. That's who we believe in. That's who we believe, paid for our sins, paid for us to be able to return to live with our Heavenly Father. That's our whole focus. But our whole point is to become like Him. And so there are certain things we have to do on this earth to become like Him. So we have the ordinances is the main thing. So you've been baptized. Mm-hmm. You probably received the Aaronic priesthood, I'm sure, because you probably didn't make it to be an elder, probably don't have the Melchizedek priesthood, which is the higher priesthood in the church. And as all these are as offices for the male members of the church to be able to act in God's name is what the priesthood is, and there's different levels and different things, and it's a pretty organized thing, but you can get caught up in the weeds of it, and that's really not what's important. But there's ordinances of baptism and confirmation, and we have that gift of the Holy Ghost given to us that we have constantly with us because we're a member of Christ's church. Now, if you're a member of some other church or some other religion, it don't mean that you're still not a child of God or Christ doesn't look out for you. He paid for everyone's sins. He did it for everybody. He suffered for everyone regardless if they believed in Him or not. God answers everyone's prayers. What, it might not be the answer that we want or or in the time frame that we want, but it's what sets the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or the LDS Church apart, is that priesthood authority and them ordinances, those saving ordinances that help us become like our Heavenly Father. And so that's why we we go to church is not because I have missed quite a bit. Last week's first time I've been to church in probably 2 months, and I'm the first counselor in the elders quorum. But I mean, I've been busy with cows, with my job. You know what I mean? I've put other priorities ahead of that. Should I have done that? Probably not, but that's the choice that I made, and that's something that I have to live with and move on with. You know what I mean? It's a growing thing. It's a moving on thing.
So I'm wondering, because of that, because you said you made those choices or you put those ahead of attending church, the reason you didn't go to church were good reasons, right? Whether it was work or whether you had to, because you know how it is with cows. You can't just, you got to get it done, right?
For sure.
So does God judge you differently because you skipped out on your meetings to do something? Because with your cows and with the farm, that's also how you support your family, right?
For sure.
As far as income and being able to feed your family.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you miss church to go and hang out at the local sports bar to watch games or something,
Yeah.
So are you going to be judged differently because of these last 2 months that you missed, even though you missed for good reasons?
Well, for one, I'm more accountable than most of the people on this earth because of what I know, the priesthood that I hold, and I've been to the temple and received ordinances there. So for starters, I'm way more accountable than 99.999% of the people that's ever lived on the earth. So I'm held to a higher standard already. But it's all about the intent of our heart. I know we look at it as a checklist, because we're so human. Everything we do, we have to relate to this life. But it's not a certain checklist. There's not even a checklist, actually. All the commandments and all the things, there's a few big wowies. We know what those are for the most part. But there's no really checklist. Now me, I've got a pretty flexible schedule at work. There's some days that they kind of let me be pretty flexible. Sometimes I try to work some weekends. It allows me to take off other weekends, things like that. With the cows and the things, could I have done it a different day? You know what I mean? It's all about the intent of my heart. I know I'm supposed to keep Sabbath day holy. I know I'm supposed to do that. But like you said, like someone that's got like a regular job, most guys in the oil field, they're, pumpers especially, they're working that. A lot of them are going to 7 and 7 now. It's a 8 and 6 or a 7 and 7, and they have to do that. And even our local leaders are like, number one thing is you got to take care of your family.
Right.
You got to take care of your family, and make sure that they're taken care of, with monetary, with money, and you have to do that. But it still goes back to what's the intent of my heart, and I'm still learning. I'm still growing, even though I know better. Sometimes I let my guard down and be like, I'm going to catch up on these other things that I'm going to miss. It's a choice that I consciously make. Sometimes, it's like you say, it's for a good reason, but I think each individual person, each individual situation is going to be judged differently. And there's only one judge. Christ gets to make that judgment because he paid for everything. He suffered everything. He knows all. So he's the one that gets to make that judgment, because the rest of us are not righteous enough to make that judgment. And so I'm okay with him making that judgment because it's going to be 100% right. It's going to be okay. But guess what? That mark that's on me, it's going to be gone because I can repent. I can ask for forgiveness. Hey, sorry, I need to do better. I'm going to do better. Please forgive me for doing this. I'm gonna do better going forward. Guess what? I'm probably going to mess up again with that. And, it's with every aspect of our life. So it's constantly just trying to become like God. And the way that we learn, how do we know what God's nature is? We have to learn about it, right? We have to know and learn about God's nature. Well, Joseph Smith, he restored a lot of the things that the Catholic Church carried the Christian religion for a lot of years. If it wasn't for the Catholic Church, we wouldn't have Christianity, and Joseph Smith wouldn't have been able to restore the church. So very thankful for those that come before us. Everything, it's all tied together. But he restored some of those things, that God has a body of flesh and bone, as tangible as man's, and Christ the same, he's separate, and the Holy Ghost is a person and a spirit. And these three beings are here to help us and to be and to become like Christ and our Heavenly Father. That's so when we go to church, when we go to our meetings, when we study our scriptures, when we even just think and sit out underneath the stars and look up and say, God, look at this universe, how did it get here? We all have those thoughts and those things. That's where we're learning to become like our Heavenly Father. And we believe that with the things that Joseph Smith has restored in this church, this is Christ's church on the earth, and his prophets, his apostles are here to lead us. And they're going to tell us and give us the tools to make us not just happy in this life and joyful, and to have the most joy that we can have, but we're going to be able to have that in the next life. And we all have agency. That's another thing that comes into it. Agency, and that can be tied back to politics. Agency. So if you look on the left side, the Democrats, what do they want to do? What do they want to do on the left side?
Well, it seems to me they want to control everything.
Yes. Is that the opposite of agency? Total opposite of agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Socialism is just a stepping stone to communism. Well, guess who's the father of that? Well, Karl Marx was actually the father of communism, and it's kind of funny, he was born around the same time Joseph Smith was. So God raised up his leader about the same time that Satan raised his leader up in these last days. And communism has been the number one downfall, in my opinion, to societies and countries across this world for since Karl Marx was born in the early 1800s. But this concept's been going on for years. We read about in some of the old texts, in the Old Testament and such. But so agency is the number one law rule on this earth. Agency. So I look at it as, well, most Republicans, let's be honest, they're rhinos. They're kind of some knuckleheads. They're better than the left. All Democrats, for the most part, are not very good. At least the ones that go to Washington and associate with that. I think there's actually a lot more good people in the party.
I think there is too. I think, and I know what you mean, but some people might take that the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Democrat representatives that we have is kind of more what you're leaning to.
For
because
sure.
I know there's a lot of people that I know, some of them that are they're on the Democrat side of things, and they are good people.
For sure.
And the thing that I have an issue with is, like you're saying, the ones that we sit here and say that they're bad people. Well, we say that because of things that they literally tell us.
Yes.
I mean, they're not even hiding things anymore. They will straight up tell you something. And if you're paying attention, and if you really hear what they're saying, in my mind, that should tell you, well, that's not right. That's not.
And they're not even trying to hide it anymore.
No, that's what it's. Yeah, they're just throwing it out there.
Yes.
But I want to go back to one thing you said. It's about the intent of our heart. And this is another thing that kind of, I guess, maybe confuses me about everything.
Okay.
Because I feel like you and I think it's safe to say we have the same intent in our heart as far as life in general. We were raised the same. We live the same. I think you're a great person, and I try to be a great person.
Oh, yeah? You are,
so,
for sure.
If the intent in the heart is the same between a person who attends these meetings and a person who doesn't, that's where I get confused as to why I may be, I don't want to say cast down, but maybe not lifted as high as you in the end. Does that make sense?
And you're not necessarily going to be, because the only thing what you're going off of isn't what God's telling you, right? It's going off of what people on this earth are telling you.
Yeah, and I
right?
think that's what's confused me, is because at a young age, we're taught about the three kingdoms, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the only way you're getting to this high kingdom is by doing A, B, C, D, and E, right? Your meetings and some of the stuff you've touched on. Well, I think, and I don't know at what age, but I think I finally just decided one day, well, if that's the only way you're going to get there, then I guess I'm not going to get there. And I think it was because, I've had some experiences and some reasons why I stopped going to church, and we don't need to get into that. That's
And it's not going to be much different than most people,
yeah,
actually.
And when it happened, my mom told me, she says, well, you go to church for yourself. And I said, I understand that. But I'm also the same type of person that I don't need to be around the certain things that were happening to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, and I've told her this, I've told Caitlin's grandma this when she's asked me about it. I know some people, and I'm not judging them. This is on them. But I've seen things that some people have done and said that attend a meeting every Sunday that are far worse and far more judgmental than some people that I know that have never attended a Sunday church meeting.
I will concur.
And again, that's in the big picture, that's not my problem, it's not my business. But I choose not to be around that because it starts making me think in a negative way towards the whole thing, right?
Yep.
And like I've told several people, I have zero issue with the LDS religion. I don't have anything against it.
Mm-hmm.
Almost the large majority of the people in my life are LDS.
Yeah.
And the large majority of that majority attend Sunday meetings. There's not a single person that I don't appreciate, love, and care about that goes to church. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I have no issue with it at all. Missionaries come by. I don't mind letting them in. We had to kind of have a talk with the last ones because they, I think, overstepped some boundaries a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, I don't have any hard feelings against them. Being a missionary, I can only imagine. I mean, you did it. It's got to be tough. You're going to a place that you don't know a soul. You're going to random doors. And I know that there's some people that treat these poor missionaries in a way that they should not be treated. And I'm sure you guys understand that going into the mission that's going to happen. But to me, even if I don't want the missionaries here, like if I'm like, no, they're not coming, they're not, I don't want them here, I'm still not just going to be like, nope, sorry, leave, shut the door in their face. Right?
It's tough.
So I bring them in, we can talk about things, and they asked us how we kind of wanted things. We kind of set some things because our schedules are busy.
Yep.
We only have certain days, this and that. Kind of overstepped a little bit. And so it got to the point to where it's like, you know what, guys, we're not trying to be rude, but maybe right now this isn't the place for you, type of thing, right?
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that, oh, I hate the missionaries, I don't want them here, I can't, that doesn't mean that at all.
Yeah.
And I think maybe what you said, and I've really never considered this, I guess, because you asked me, is that what God is telling me, or is that what people on earth have told me, right? That kind of opens up a bigger window here because, yeah, that's when I was younger, when I was in church every Sunday, I mean, that's kind of what we're told, and it's like, well, if you don't do this, then you can't get here. Or if you don't do this, then after, once you die, you won't be with your family. And maybe that's a part of it or whatever, but it starts putting so many things into your head to where it's like, I don't even really know. I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know what to think about this because there's been times that I've asked myself, what do I believe in?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have seriously had that thought to myself several times. What do I even believe in?
Yeah.
And I think, like I had said before, and one question you asked is, why are we here? And I think what you said, I think is true. And I want to add a little something to that. While we're here trying to figure out how to be like God, like you said, we still have duties here. Like, why am I here? I'm here to take care of the wife and the 2 kids that I have.
And that's all to do with becoming like God.
Yeah.
It's all part of it.
And I'm here to serve other people in the best way that I can. The community, my immediate family, my distant family, my friends.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm not saying that one religion is right, one religion is wrong, because I don't know enough to make that judgment.
For sure.
But I also think about, you mentioned some of the other religions, you have like your Baptists and the Jews and all this other stuff. Well, I think at the end of the day, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of them have the same ideas and thoughts and beliefs in the big scheme of things. Mm-hmm. Like obviously there's smaller things that are different from one religion to the next, but that's also another thing that I've always thought about is one religion, it says, well, let's use country music for example. How many country music songs talk about having a barbecue and a beer on Saturday and then going to church on Sunday, right? Well, if you go to the LDS religion, alcohol is against the word of wisdom. Mm-hmm. So something that's always confused me is if this religion, they believe in God, they worship God, this religion does the same. But in this religion, you can have a beer if you want, and in this religion, you can't. You know what I'm saying? So
I understand.
How is it? And maybe this is something that they've been told by the people on Earth. I don't know, but I'd like to know your thoughts on that. Why? And the drinking a beer is just one example. It's just country music. It's the first thing that came to mind. There's several
That's
examples.
A good example,
but why is that okay in the eyes of one religion as far as their leaders and everything, but in the other one it's frowned upon?
Well, goes back to, I hate to, I feel like I'm not trying to, you can tell me to quit whenever.
No,
but
that's why we're here. We're here to talk.
So we got to go back to the apostasy. So after Christ was crucified, come back, there was the apostles, Peter and John, James, the apostles. They only lived, John was the last one on earth till about 90 A.D. And so from then on, the church fell to the wayside. There wasn't those apostles, those leaders on earth anymore to tell the earth what God wanted the people on earth to do. And so Joseph Smith was the first one in 1820 when he prayed. He wanted to know what church was true. It was worse then than it is now, if you can believe it. Religion was way big. I think it's kind of a fading thing in this country now, which that's another problem I think that is wrong with this country and even the world. But it was big religious back then. But with him restoring all of those things and putting a leader back on the earth to be able to tell us what we need to do for now. It's not what Joseph Smith. He's restoring all the old stuff, but he's telling us for what is now. I don't know how familiar you are with Jewish customs or anything.
Not very.
But so back in the Old Testament times, and actually through the New Testament, pretty much what we know about the Gospels was Christ. Christ was always the Sadducees and the Pharisees. You've probably heard of those terms maybe before, but they were always trying to catch him doing something that wasn't the Jewish law, because Christ was a Jew, even though it's kind of funny Christ was a Jew, but he's the the head of the Christian
right.
religion or whatever. It's kind of a oxymoron type thing, but they're always trying to catch him in something. But one of the Jewish customs back then, they had like a word of wisdom, and they couldn't eat pork. Mm-hmm. So, and it was, the cloven hoof, or, however they described it in the Old Testament. It was kind of however. I could probably find some scriptures to go along with it. But, so they kind of had like their word of wisdom back then, that they couldn't eat pork, and there was a few other things.
Well, that's still a thing, isn't it?
For Jews it is, because they don't believe that Christ actually come. They believe Jesus was just a man. They don't believe that he was actually the Messiah, the Christ. So that's why we Jews and Christians are very, very similar in what we believe. Actually, Islam, the Muslims, they actually go back to Abraham. Us, the Jewish religion, and Christians go back to Abraham. That's where Islam split off, was Abraham, just to give you, kind of anyway, backstory. But so they kind of have a little word of wisdom then. When it talks about Christ drinking wine and having the sacrament, it was actually wine. Now, some of these modern day people and missionaries, even I caught myself doing it because I heard someone else say it. Oh, it wasn't fermented, it wasn't this. BS, it was. that was not a thing back then. They fermented grapes and fruits and drank just like, just like normal. So sometimes when we think that, and I'm getting better as I get older and learning more and knowing what to say and what not to say, and so this word of wisdom thing is actually Joseph Smith, after he received the word of wisdom, it was section 89 in Doctrine and Covenants, which is, for those that don't know what that is, that's some revelations that Joseph Smith received, why he was here on earth to restore the church. I think that was in like 1833, if I remember right. But even Joseph Smith, throughout his life, which was shortened because he got killed for what he believed in. But even throughout the rest of his life, he drank a little bit. It was saying not to be drunk then, and then a little bit later it was, okay, let's tighten up on that a little bit more. And then I think it was in 1918 with Joseph F. Smith. He was a later prophet, Hiram Smith's son, said that we need to follow this word of wisdom. We need to abstain from tobacco and alcohol, and then the hot drinks it talks about is tea and coffee. And then now they've expanded it because we live in a way different world than then. There wasn't heroin and cocaine and stuff back then, and vaping is the same as smoking, and things like that. So they've kind of tailored that, but our modern prophets have tailored that to our day. So, and the word of wisdom, that's another thing that bothers me as someone that and not saying that I haven't broke the word of wisdom. I've had my fair share, of over the years in my younger days. Not saying I haven't done that, because I have. It's not something that's really ever interested me. For the most part, I've stayed away, and for a little bit of religious reasons, and just because it just doesn't
just not your thing.
It's not attractive to me, So, but people put such a big emphasis on if you drink or if you smoke or and it's really, I shouldn't say that it's not a big deal within the church, because it's something we shouldn't do, but
it's something.
But it's actually a lower key thing than what you would think.
Well, and I think it's something that we shouldn't do, more so for maybe health reasons, right?
Yeah, and that's a lot of it.
Instead of because again, I know people that would drink and go to church, and me personally, I didn't see anything wrong with that, because. Well, the friend I was talking to you about that is opposite side of the aisle when it comes to politics, he told me some crazy stories. He used to be an addict to several drugs. He went to prison for them. He found the church. I can't remember if it was in prison or after or whatever, but now he goes to church. He's not into heavy drugs, anything like that, but he smokes a little. And I asked him, well, do people ever kind of give you crap about going, And he's like, no. And I thought, really? Because I know I have seen with my own eyes, people get treated different because they drink or they might smoke or they might whatever, but yet they're at church.
Yeah.
And I've always thought, well, what are you talking about? The guy is here.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be the only thing that matters?
Yeah.
And he told me, because I asked him, I says, well, why do you go to church then? I'm just curious. Like, why do you keep going? And he said that it keeps him on the right path, because he does not want to go back to the life he used to live. I've never been addicted to drugs, so I don't know.
Yeah, me either.
But all we ever hear about is how it is very easy to fall back into that crack, right? So that made perfect sense to me. I'm like, okay, well, that's great. I hope you keep going, because I didn't know him then, but I know him now. He's a great dude.
Yeah.
So, but there are people that will judge you or say something about you because, well, do you know what he used to do? Or do you know what this guy does on Saturdays? And again, like my mom said, you go for yourself. So we as people should not even take anything from that.
No, we shouldn't.
And I don't. I learned a long time ago, I do not care what people say about me. I don't.
Yeah. I'm a lot of the same way.
But I also... Well, I think we need to finish on what we were talking about before, and I kind of cut you off on that. But, back to we need to stick to the word of wisdom, and that was...
But it's not as big a deal as what people think. Like, it's, it's like our health code or whatever. And we can list out a million reasons. People will say, well, soda and energy drinks is way worse for you than coffee or tea. You know what? Health reasons, it probably is. But the reason that I do it is because I believe that Joseph Smith is a prophet. I believe that he saw God the Father and Jesus Christ. I believe that he restored the actual, real, true church of Christ on this earth, and that the prophets that have followed him and the leaders, they have that same authority. And just because they told us that that's something we're not supposed to do, that's good enough for me. Mm-hmm. I don't need to know all the science. And it, like I said, the word of wisdom is only something that's been here for 200 years. Like I said with the Jews, it was the pork, and maybe even back in Moses and Abraham, there was some other customs and other things they had to do back then. I mean, the church has always, the core doctrines and the things, God never changes, but sometimes on this earth, we need different things at different times. Mm-hmm. And agency is one of those things that it's the number one thing on this earth. It is the number one thing. And you probably remember maybe from when you were younger, when you learned about the pre-mortal life and the war in heaven. Mm-hmm. Satan, his plan versus Christ's plan. Well, Satan, his plan, and it's I've learned a little bit more about this since, and it's more in depth, but to just put it out in layman's terms, Christ wanted to give us our agency, which is an eternal law. That's something that he cannot mess with, God himself. Agency, that we have to freely choose to become something we can't be forced into it. Mm-hmm. And so Satan's plan was to make everyone do this, and this. And he wanted all the glory, and the other way Christ was going to, suffer for our sins, pay for us to go back, because there was certain criteria had to be met to be able to go back. And so that battle that started in the life before when we were born on this earth, that battle is still continuing today. And it ties back into what we were talking about with communism versus, capitalism, and, the left and the right, and there is some, going back and forth. So when I say that everything goes back to that, when I think about these things in my head, I always go back to agency. What side lets me choose freely what I want to do? That's what capitalism is about. We could fail, like Satan's plan. Well, yeah, but what if they fail? There's a plan. There's a plan if we fail. But guess what? The times that we failed in our lives, those are the times that we learn. Those are the times that we grow. And so we got to have those times.
Well, it's just kind of like anything else. In the much smaller scale basic things in a daily life. You make a mistake, if you don't learn from it, you make it again, right? Yep. But you have to make those mistakes in order to learn from it to not do that again, We talk about that with our kids all the time. Certain, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but certain things like they might do something and it caught, I can think of something.
Yeah.
Boston loves to lean back on the chair, as we all did.
Oh, yeah.
But you tell them, hey, don't do that. You're going to fall.
Right over.
Sit down. And they finally do. They tip over.
And church was the worst place we used to do it.
Oh, dude, church.
That was the worst place.
Yeah. But it's like, see, I told you, but it's like you just said, on a much smaller scale, we still have to have these mistakes so we can learn from them. But like you said, it all kind of ties back into the same thing.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like, too, kind of back to what you said about the intentions of your heart. Mm-hmm. I personally feel like that is probably the most important thing, and that's just how I feel.
That is actually the most important thing.
Because I think, and I kind of, maybe this is the wrong attitude to have, but like I had said before, I kind of just decided one day, I know who I am, I know what I was taught, I know right from wrong, I know how to respect people. I know all the stuff. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I finally just decided, I guess if I'm going to end up in a different place than all of these other people that I'm close to and that I love and everything else, then I guess maybe that's what it is, because we're also told that God has a plan for each and every one of us, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm living the life that I'm living and it does not include attending a Sunday morning meeting, is that not the plan that God had for me? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I understand the plan was for him to go to the meetings and to become like him and to learn about him and all the stuff. But also,
I struggle with that one as well.
Well, and I remember being told this, being younger, is everything that we do, like whatever I'm going to do in February of 2028, God already knows what I'm going to do, right? So
you're talking about predestination.
Yes. So when I was 8 years old and I was getting baptized, God already knew that at age 17 I was going to stop going to church.
Yeah, well, He knew it for sure.
I didn't change who I was. I didn't change the way I lived. I was still young, still had to learn a lot. I'm sure I was a knothead. Well, I know I was.
Well,
but
you had more of a choice, though, too,
right.
when you were 17 than when you're 8.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
right, exactly.
part of it, too.
Well, and that's another thing. That's a whole other topic, too.
Yeah, when you're young, you're under your parents' jurisdiction, and they make us, that's what we're supposed to do. Kids are supposed to do what their parents tell them.
Well, and there's
a
lot of people that think 8 is too young for a kid to make that decision to be baptized. Because at 8, I look at Boston, for example. My kids aren't baptized, and that was nothing that we didn't tell them they couldn't. We didn't.
Oh, for sure.
Caitlin and I have had this conversation many times. Brooklyn will go to church with my mom sometimes.
I've seen her there.
She'll go with her and do the thing, and I don't care. I've told Brooklyn, if you want to go, I will never tell you no.
Yeah.
You can go anytime you want to go. If she continues to, and she doesn't go every week, but if she gets to that point to where she gets interested in baptism and stuff like that, I will never tell her no.
Oh, for sure.
That's not, I don't, again, I have no problem with the religion. I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah.
But it's just so many things. I kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with that, but it's back to just, I guess, to sum it all up is I think it's more important to be a good person. And I don't know, maybe this is the wrong statement to make, but I'm going to make it. In my mind, it's more important for me to be a good person and treat people, the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you'd have others do unto you.
For sure.
To be that way than it is to go to a meeting on a Sunday, right?
For sure.
And I know that's probably not the most popular statement, but that's just how I feel. And I don't not believe in God. This had to have come from somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just said earlier, you lay out, and I do this all the time in the summer.
Yeah.
I'll look up there and I'm like, my gosh, what?
Yeah.
It's amazing. You look at our little valley right here. Surrounded in these mountains. It is beautiful here. I love this place more than any other place in the world. I mean, I haven't been around the world, but I feel like I don't need to.
No.
I know there's some great places to see and everything like that, but yes, it had to have come from somewhere. So I do believe there is a God. I also, at the same time, I do not believe that God is going to punish me because I'm not a faithful every Sunday church goer. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll find out, like you said, when that judgment day comes. And I'm like the same way as you. I've never thought about it that deep, but since you said it, I've been thinking about it. Whatever decision he makes, that's a decision he makes, and that's fine. Because I know there's a lot worse things in this life that I could be doing.
What if I told you it wasn't up to him, it was up to you?
Well,
then what?
I don't think I would change the way I live.
That's actually what the doctrine actually is. When we get to the other side, there's a judgment, but you're going to choose where you want to be.
By how I live here? Is that what you're saying?
You just get to choose. Agency doesn't stop at death. Agency has been from the beginning, and we know that God is without beginning. I can wrap my head around that there's no end in front of us, but it's harder to wrap my head around there's no beginning. But from the eternities forward to the eternities backwards, agency. We will always have a choice. Some people get caught up in so-and-so was sealed to so-and-so in the temple, and now, oh my God, what do we do? And I don't think they like them very well, and we don't need to worry about all that. It's all going to be sorted out when we get to the other side. That's why we have temples. We do ordinances for people that have passed on. We do all that stuff for people that, and some of the people that we're maybe doing it for, maybe they don't want it. But guess what? Tough. They're going to get it done for them anyway.
Yeah.
And in the next life, they get to choose whether they want to accept it or they don't. And they get it. We all get to choose where we want to be. We all get to choose where are we going to feel the most comfortable. And as what God is telling us is saying, hey, the ultimate goal is to be a God like me. And there's certain things that you have to do, whether it's in this life and the next life together, or look at infant children that are stillborns or died when they were 1. You know what I mean? That's why with the restoration, this whole gospel, it just gives all the answers to all this stuff that Christians have been telling people for thousands of years. You're just going to burn in hell. Sorry, you're just that unlucky, someone that lived in Tibet in 500 AD, and, or like we, talked about a kid that, everyone's going to have that chance. There's stuff going on the other side right now that's the same as what's here, but without a body. They're in spirit form, we're in physical form. It's just different dimensions. I mean, it's kind of, I don't mean to get into anything too deep, but you have to kind of go deep to really get the grasp of where we're really going and what we're really doing here.
Well, and that is one thing that is kind of cool about religion, is it is deep. It's very deep.
And it can't, but the deeper we've been getting, the more simple you know what I mean? The deeper I go, the more like, well, duh, I'm an idiot. Like, it makes sense.
Well, like you said, one of the things, a lot of people get wrapped up in certain things, like you had mentioned about the seal to this person. That kind of goes a full circle back to what we were talking about before, as just kind of, like you said, we don't need to worry about that.
Don't worry about
just kind of mind your business, you know? Like, and I think that's one thing that has steered people away from the church, probably a lot of people away from the church.
For sure.
Is because they start to feel like people tell them, well, I have to do this, or I will not be where I need to be when I die. And I know that steers people away. And that kind of, to me, it's kind of sad, really. Because that could take someone from being fully vested in, doing their church meetings, believing all the right things, but if they are constantly told, because so they do all that, but maybe they go to a party on a Saturday or something, right? So there's something. Well, then they keep getting told everything, like, you can't do that. If you do that, you will not be where you want to go. That could totally change a person and make them think, this is all BS. Why are you telling me that I cannot do this? And that, to me, is sad, because it takes people, and like you said earlier, one of the biggest problems we have in not only the country, but in the whole world, is religion is kind of fading out.
It is.
But I think a lot of people, they think religion has to be everything, that checklist you talked about, right?
Yeah, there
is no checklist, but people think that there is, and if you're not doing what's on this checklist, you're wrong. You're not going where you need to go. You're not doing what you need to do.
Yeah.
But I think in the bigger picture here, if everybody, and there's people that don't believe in God, obviously. There's, there's people that just flat out don't believe in it. And in my opinion, that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Believe whatever you want to believe. Because for me, it's not going to change how I go to bed at night and how I wake up in the morning. Yeah. It's not my job to worry about what this person thinks and believes. And I know people struggle with missionaries too. And I understand why missionaries do what they do. I get that.
Oh, yeah.
I was taught about it growing up. I understand. But I know that some people look at it as, I know you've heard this before, people refer to the church as a cult, right? Well, if you think about it, if that's the case, there's a lot of cults in the world.
You ain't a kid.
You know what I mean? If we're going to classify it as a cult,
99% of the world's a cult.
Exactly, there's a lot of cults. But I know people feel like when a missionary comes to their house, the missionaries are there to try to tell people, this is what you have to do if you want to be where you need to be. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. The missionaries are there to offer you the opportunity to learn more about the religion and about what maybe God expects from you and what He wants you to do.
Yeah. And if you're not part of it, they'll make you a member.
Right.
And you want to be, they're there to make you a member. Or if you, like you haven't been active for a long time, they're there to help you if you want to, if you want to learn any more, or you want, they're there for that stuff too.
See, and maybe I'm just stubborn, because I actually told a missionary once, and I know after I said it, I'm like, that's not true,
But I was like, dude, you're not going to sit here and tell me anything that I haven't already been told. Which, when missionaries have come to me, they start at the basics, right?
Oh, definitely.
Which I do know.
They're supposed to.
Right, exactly. I know.
And actually, that stuff, I actually, when I went to the MTC, I found out how dumb I was.
Yeah.
It blew my mind away. I'm like, I didn't know half the stuff, and it was the basics.
Yeah.
So it just, and then from then it's just snowballed.
Well, and that's why after I told the kid that, I'm like, well, that's not really true, because, yeah, some of the things he was going to tell me I might already know.
Yeah, and they were probably tailoring it more to your kids for their level.
Well, this was pre-kids.
Oh, before
this
your
was
kids.
before.
Oh, okay.
Kids, yeah. But I was not active.
Yeah.
And they knew it. I hadn't been in quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
But.
And then again with your kids, I can guarantee you why they were. I know why you got a little irked. Your kids are low hanging fruit, is what we call it as missionaries. Anyone that's 9 to whatever age and they're young, and you know what I mean. You're like you're there to bring people unto Christ. They're trying to. It's hard because we live in a secular world, so we have numbers and we have things that so they're trying to get baptisms or whatever, and so they're like, oh, these kids, we can let's see if we can get these kids.
See, and I kind of feel like that might be something that I maybe have a bit of an issue with because kids are vulnerable.
For sure,
kids. If a kid can sense that they feel like you're a nice person. They're not scared of you, then you can probably convince them of a lot of things.
For sure.
Right? And I think that's one reason that some people might have an issue with 8 years old being the decision to be baptized. Because at 8 years old, all a kid knows is what they've been told.
For sure.
They haven't lived enough to understand things fully, to experience things.
No.
And again, I'm not trying to say anything bad about the church saying that that's the age. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I know that's an issue they have. And when they did come here one time, they asked Brooklyn if she had a Book of Mormon, and she didn't. And she's like, no, I don't. And the missionary says, well, here, this one's yours. And she just kind of like, I don't know if she didn't want it, because Brooklyn is very shy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I think that was part of it. But he kind of... He forced her to take it, but it wasn't forcefully, if that makes any sense. And I just kind of sat there, and my thought was... dude, if she doesn't want it, she doesn't want it.
Yeah.
Maybe give it some time. Because this is like the first or second time that he had ever talked to her. And again, my kids are so flippin' shy. They're just now getting to where they'll go to my dad's without us. Like they're shy.
Yeah.
Very shy. But that's, I think, something, like I said, I kind of have a little bit of an issue with that. Just because kids are so vulnerable. Now, if you take a kid that is, let's say 16, for example, they're still very young. They still have a lot to learn.
Oh, yeah.
But the difference between 8 and 16, that gives them double the time to where maybe they have lived a little bit more. They have experienced a few more things. They've had more time to think about things and to process things.
For sure.
At 8 years old, you don't even know how to process anything you're being told. It just goes straight in here, and that's what it is, right?
For sure.
But again... If a kid chooses to get baptized at 8, I'm not saying that they're making the wrong decision. That's not what I mean.
Yeah.
I just think if a kid doesn't get baptized until they're 16, that's fine. And I know the church has no issue with that either, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But there's just, like you said, kids, they kind of try to target the kids, right? Because they hope to maybe get them into the church, which is fine.
Yeah.
But does the kid really know what they're getting into? And I'm not saying they're getting anything bad, but do they know what they're getting into, right? They don't.
No.
I don't think they do. But
for sure,
that's just one way that the LDS church kind of runs things, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But I don't like when people... And I haven't seen this personally, but I've heard some stories, and I don't know if they're true. I don't have a reason to not believe the people. But kids didn't want to get baptized. And one kid in particular flat out said, well, I don't even know anything about the church. But they were pushing baptism on him, because I think he was 9 at the time.
Parents or the missionaries?
The missionaries.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I don't think
I don't know what was being said. I don't think they were like, you have to get baptized. They were just kind of trying to push him into making that decision, right? But he flat out told his parents, I don't even know anything about it. Why do I even get baptized? What does that even mean? Why,
Yeah.
And so there I'm like, okay, guys, before you maybe push this kid away by being forceful, maybe take a step back.
Yeah.
But again, these kids these missionaries, they're coming in from all over the world that don't know these people, and they just know what they're there and what they're supposed to do, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like anything else. You have a job at hand, and you got to do that job. So I understand that you're trying to accomplish what you're there to do, but I think sometimes it needs to slow down just a little bit.
Yep. And that goes to each individual too. And when you're younger, you're shy and you don't know what to do so much. Towards the end of that 2 years, you're pretty much know what you're doing.
Right.
I mean, for the most part. And some of so.
And I totally understand that too. I can only imagine the nerves of a new missionary being out somewhere. Different. Especially these ones that go to a completely different country.
Can't speak the language.
Can't speak the language. You don't know the culture. You don't know the lifestyle. That has got to be rough to get used to. But everyone that you talk to when they come back loved every second of it. And it would be cool to experience a new culture and to surround yourself with people that you have no knowledge of other than they exist, basically, right?
For sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess my thing is, I think sometimes things maybe just need to slow down just a little bit and maybe give kids more time to process everything.
Yep.
And like I said, if a kid decides at 8 years old, which a lot of kids do, they want to get baptized, that's fine. That is totally fine. I'm not saying they're making the wrong decision if that's what but if a kid is on the fence or doesn't really know.
Yeah.
Sure. Sorry. I'm not saying that the missionaries have to give up on them.
No.
But maybe just give them a little space. Maybe let them... Or when you come and talk to them, start in the shallow end of the water, Don't try to get into the big basic things of hold on, I might throw...
Go ahead.
But maybe just kind of start a little bit slower with them and ease them into it instead of, well, this is what we have to do and this is what he says to do, and maybe explain to them why you did. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because that's something I've really never heard a missionary say. Why did you get baptized? Yeah. But I don't know. And like you said, everybody's different. Everybody looks at things different. I think, again, probably the most important thing is what's in your heart and to understand that there is a higher power out there. Do you ever listen to Tucker Carlson?
I watched him a little bit when he was on Fox News, but I haven't really followed him much
he's better
since.
now.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've always liked Tucker, but he's even better now.
Okay.
But he talks religion quite often.
Oh, okay.
He's pretty religious guy, and sometimes I even feel like you're laying it on a little thick here. But I tell myself, well, that's Tucker. He can talk about what he wants.
Yeah.
That's how he feels. And I don't have an issue with it. Sometimes it's like, all right, man, you've been beating this dead horse for 35 minutes. Yeah. But it's good to hear his perspective too, because he was an alcoholic for a long time.
Oh, okay.
He's told stories about how he would wake up in the morning and his breakfast was a glass of vodka. And I was thinking that, I'm like, whoa. A glass of vodka at 10 p.m. isn't good. I can't even imagine it, in the morning. But he also is very open-minded to people that maybe aren't so religious in the Christian faith. Mm-hmm. But he's always referring to how, this is a Christian country. And he had a guy on from Britain the other day. I don't know the guy's name. He's somebody in their, what do they call it, their parliament. Mm-hmm. And he was saying the same thing, how Britain's always been a Christian country, but they see things, well, they're having the same issues we are.
Open borders.
Yeah, the same thing that's happening here is happening there.
Yep.
And it's kind of ruining the place. But it was interesting to hear those two talk about, kind of the religious, because Tucker's always saying that he thinks what's going on here in the big scheme of things is a spiritual war, which when he breaks it down, I can't think of what he says right now, but when I listen to it, I'm like, well, that makes sense, you know?
It is.
Trying to get, like, there's a lot of guys out there right now that think they're trying to push for something to get Christians against Muslims again. You know, kind of like what we dealt with several years ago.
Yeah.
And every time I hear that, my question is, why? What is the benefit of having Christians against Muslims? And, well, I know their benefit, you know, because unfortunately war is a rich man's game. You know, there's people that get very wealthy off war, which is disgusting.
It's a way to control the people.
Exactly. But I just can't wrap my head around how somebody wants that much power. Like, you're never going to control everybody.
They think that, though.
I know they do.
They want a one world order.
But that's what I don't understand. You have these other dictatorships like North Korea, like Russia. You have the CCP in China. But I guarantee you there's people in that country that do things they're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
So, like, you're never going to control everybody. So how did that get into their brain that they will be able to control? Which, there's a lot of ways that they can. A lot of the people.
Did you know there's one thing standing in the way for them to accomplish that? You do know that, right? There's one thing standing in the way.
What is it?
The United States of America.
If we stick to our
yeah.
guns, right? If we stick to our standards, our beliefs.
Yeah.
The majority of this country is that way. Doesn't matter what religion they are. I think the majority of this country feels that way. And you see it every day. You see, you know, you hear different. So Tucker's where I get most of my information from.
Okay.
I do listen to a guy named Andy Frisella, who I think is awesome. His podcast is The Real AF. He does different segments, but the one I listen to does it twice a week. He calls it CTI, Cruise the Internet. So they just bring up topics of the country, the world, and kind of talk about it. And they talk some crap, you know, on stuff that is just bogus. That's absolutely insane. But he's a very smart guy. He's had things that he has said in the past, like, if this continues to go the way it is, this will be the outcome. And there's been several things that he's been right on the money on.
For sure.
So I've kind of started leaning, and I don't take what they say as what's the
gospel truth.
Yes, exactly. But I do listen to them a lot, and I learn a lot from them, and it just kind of, they help you open your mind to things, you know, and they make you realize, like, yeah, this really isn't a big deal. Why are we freaking out over this? You know, like, I don't know. It's crazy to watch, and it's a little bit scary at times. But I think most people in this country are starting to kind of open up their eyes a little bit and think that really doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a bigger picture here. And I hope that's the way it's going, but it seems like it is. Because at the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason, right? And obviously we're going to have people that are trying to get into the way, which are the people on the other side of things. They're on Satan's side, not on God's side. But they don't control the majority. Or they're not the majority, you know what I mean?
No.
So I just think it all comes, like Caitlin and I talked about this last week on our episode, that if we could all just get back to respecting each other as a human being, we wouldn't have near the problems we have.
No.
It's a small, little, teeny tiny thing that I think would change everything. It's just respect other people and be a good person. That's really all you got to do in my mind.
For sure.
Don't try to force something on someone. And when you do, most of us are wired. When you try to force me into doing something, I'm going to do the opposite.
Yep.
You know, and it doesn't matter if it's religion, if it's politics, if it's your job, whatever it is, we're all wired that same way.
Yep.
But there's too many people that want to be forceful and say, well, no, this is how you have to do it. Like, look at all the names they have come up with in the past 10 years to call people for not believing a certain thing. Like, and that's another thing.
you have the anti-Semite, you have the racist, you have all this other stuff, the homophobe, there's a million phobes.
Islamophobe.
Well, and now
xenophobe, yeah.
Those names, I think, to most people, I don't think they even mean anything anymore. Because, like I was telling Caitlin, Tucker has referred to certain times, well, and even Andy Frisell, where they have called them racist. And I'm like, okay, well, what they talked about, I feel the same way. I agree with this certain thing they talked about. So essentially, you're calling me a racist. And I know me. And I am the farthest thing you could get from a racist. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter to me. And I think that's how most people are. But it's like, you have used these names, because you think about it back, well, when we were in high school, I never heard anything about racism. I mean, I know it was there. It's always been around, and it always will be around.
Till Obama come, there was no racism in our lifetime.
But the way they're portraying it now, dude, the white people are the bad people. The white people are the racist.
White males, specifically.
Yeah,
are the
and
very
like,
worst ones, yes.
But, and I'm sorry for people listening to this. Some of this can be a little repetitive because Caitlin and I talked about it too, but it's something that I really feel strongly about, is a lot of these people, politicians in specific, will come out and say certain things, calling someone else a racist for doing what they're doing. And I'm like, do you even hear what just came out of your mouth? Because what you just said is the definition of racism. But you're trying to blame it all on me, or on the white people. Like, there's so many videos going around about the white people. It's like, dude, we're all freaking people.
Yeah.
If you could get past that, and again, racism is out there. I know it. I've never seen it and dealt with it, been around it.
Yeah.
But I know it's out there.
Oh, for sure.
But one thing we all need to realize is racism is involved in every single race. It's not just the white people are racist, the black people are racist, the Asians are racist. Like, that's so stupid to even think that way, and it's so freaking close-minded for somebody to even consider that, because it's not true. There's bad people in every race. But there's also a lot more good people in every race than what there is bad.
For sure.
But I just don't know how we get everybody back onto that page, to be on the same page, to understand, like, hey man, I'm here the same reason you are.
I'm here to tell you, you won't.
No, you won't. And that's and not everybody, but, and maybe, I think this is a big part of it too, when you said that before Obama came in, we didn't hear and deal with racism. Well, we also didn't really have social media either. So we weren't able to see a lot of the things that's going on.
Yep.
Now, I'm not sitting here saying that white people aren't racist. I've seen a lot of videos that I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
But what sucks, think about in basketball, back in practice in high school. If one person screwed up, what happened?
Everyone had to run.
We all got the blame for it, right? We all had to run. Well, that's kind of how it's happening right now. If you get one white person that does something bad, well, now all white people are bad. Or if you get a black person that does something bad, that whether it's whatever he does something bad, well, now all black people are bad. And it's like, oh my gosh, you guys, you are so stupid.
Yeah.
And like this whole topic with, the whole Israel conflict going on. I hear people say on these podcasts, on their comments and stuff all the time, well, if the Jews would just do that. And it's like, dude, you're so stupid. And all these podcasters say the same thing. They're like, it's not the freaking Jews. Like, yeah, some of the people that are causing these issues are Jews. But that doesn't mean it's the whole entire Jewish people. Like, I don't know this. Again, I get my information from these podcasts, but apparently there are polls and numbers in Israel that like 90% of the people there do not even want their leader in power.
Oh,
well, they're all Jewish.
I thought Benjamin Netanyahu was a pretty good leader, but maybe not. I don't know.
From what I've been hearing, and I don't know, this is Andy's not really, I wouldn't really call him right-wing. He's kind of more of just well, he'll flat out tell you, and he'll criticize the Republicans just as much as the Democrats if the criticism is deserved. But he's more of an in the center kind of like a Joe Rogan guy. Mm-hmm. He's kind of right in the middle. He just wants what's best for America. Doesn't really care about Israel. Doesn't really care about any of these other countries where these things are going on. And to be honest with you, I don't either.
No, we don't need to worry about that.
I do care about people being treated the way they should be treated,
Yes.
But until we fix the problems we have here, we shouldn't be dipping into anything else, you know.
With foreign aid and everything else.
Well, and I just heard the other day, I haven't had a chance to find this anywhere, because I try to stay completely off of Facebook. In fact, the last 2 weeks, I've posted on there only about, you know, these podcasts just to try to get the word out there. But Facebook got to me to where I was so sick of seeing all the crap from both sides. And how it even gets on your feed, I don't know. The algorithm they talk about.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, you know what? This is just not for me anymore. So I kept it, because there are certain things like, I like to get on and browse the old yard sales and stuff once in a while, you know, find somebody's lost treasure. But I moved it out of my sight to where I didn't see it anymore, because I'm just like, you know what? This is nothing but a waste of time. And just watching people, well, and we found out too, ever since Elon bought Twitter, we have found out all the bot situation on the social media. And every time I see a post, sometimes I'll get sucked into it and I'll click on the comments and I'll read a few and I'll see these people just bickering back and forth. And you can almost now tell by what's being said. I sometimes want to get on there and be like, you know that you're arguing with a fake account, right? Like, that's not even a real person that you're arguing with. And I can tell by what they're saying, because it's always the same thing.
Yeah,
it's like they've got their book right here and they open page 1 and they say, okay, here's a response for this. And you can find this on different posts. The comments might be worded a little different, not the exact same words, but they're saying the same thing. Oh. And it's like, you guys, they're doing to you you are doing exactly what they want you to do. You're engaging in an argument here over something that you're not even talking to a real person.
Yep.
You know, but...
Or even if you are, they act like robots, because that's all that the media has let them hear since Obama's been in. And when you have a left-wing run media that controls 90, Fox News and some others do help, give some other perspective, which is a good thing.
In a way.
But when people... And I think that if people really knew the truth, I think the majority of people don't really know the truth, because the social media and the main media is all that they know. Mm-hmm. They don't really know, they don't know really where, maybe just like with anything else, they don't know where to find it.
Right.
They don't know where to get
Well, and there's only certain things, and like, people might listen to this and they might hear me say that I like Tucker and that's where I get my information from, and some people might be like, well, yeah, that's why you think what you think, because he's a Republican. Yeah. Not really. Like, Tucker's pretty level-headed. He's pretty open-minded about things. Yeah. He will tell you what he thinks is bogus, but that's not why I believe what I believe is just because Tucker said it and he's a Republican, per se. Like, to me, common sense is the main thing.
Yes.
Just think about something for a minute. When you hear something, when you see something, just think about it for a minute.
Yeah.
And like with Trump is the kind of guy that he's a bit of an ass.
Oh, yeah.
He is. But that's just who he is, and I don't think... Yeah, he said some things that he shouldn't have said, maybe done a few things he shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
But he's human.
Yeah, for sure.
Obama said some stuff he shouldn't have said. Bush said some stuff he shouldn't have said. Biden said... They've all done it. It's not just a Trump thing.
No.
But everybody's been told from 2015 to hate Donald Trump because he is the worst thing that could ever happen to this country.
Yes.
There's been some pretty bad stuff happen over the past 25 years. That's all I can speak for, because prior to that I was too young to know anything.
For sure.
But it's not just a one-person thing, and that's another thing that I just can't figure out. So everybody that I know, that I associate with, that I talk to, not big fans of Biden, not big fans of Obama. But the whole time they were in office, I didn't hear these people just constantly bicker and well, he's so bad, he's this, he's that. We just kind of lived our lives, did what we could do to get through.
Because we're the ones that can't. We have to go to work. We have to make the world go round.
And that's another thing too. That's what's crazy. People always say that that's not fair to say that, and it's like, well, if you kind of watch what's going on, it's true.
Yeah.
It's not that people's just saying it.
It's
and
true.
Every time they have these protests, my first thought is,
why don't you have a job?
Work?
Yeah.
I can't take a day off to go protest.
No. Let alone a whole year.
But then we find out, and there's proof of this, you just have to look it up and find it. Then we find out they're being paid to protest.
By George Soros.
But here's another thing. Yeah, they're being paid to do it. They can't be being paid that much. I guarantee you
You and I could not live off of what they're being paid.
No.
To go protest. I don't think they can. I shouldn't say I guarantee, but I can't find that. I guess they can
because
if
of what
they
the
live off the system.
Yeah, the government. Yep.
So they're getting paid to protest, plus they're living off the system, which I think another thing is the whole welfare Medicaid thing is a joke. You know, there's been so many stories over the past years of people that have been on this program for 20, 30, 40 years. Sure. Never worked a job a day in their life. And it's like, that's why a lot of people hate this system. We go to work every freaking day. You think I like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning? No, I hate it.
Yeah.
You know, I hate it. But I know it's what I have to do.
Yeah.
I don't know a single person. I'm sure there's a few that just love their job so much. And I like my job. I like where I'm at. I'm at a good place. But I could think of things I'd rather be doing than getting up at 5 in the morning and going out and going to work.
Because we have to be paid to do it.
Yeah,
so.
right?
Yeah.
So, that's another thing too. It kind of depends on what you expect out of life. You know, I don't expect all the nice, big, fancy things, keeping up with the Joneses, all that kind of stuff. But some people do.
Yeah.
Some people don't. Some people are fine with a little teeny tiny roof over their head that somebody else pays for, and they literally have nothing else.
And it's better than what 90% of the world has still.
Well, and it's sad too, because the people that live that way live better than you and I. You know, there's some people that get so much. I've seen this too, and again, I won't use names, but I have seen this where the amount of money that comes into people from the state blows my mind. I mean, you've got refrigerators that are so full you can't shove another little teeny tiny thing in there.
Yeah, and we're buying steak and lobster and all the high-end stuff instead of the necessities that we need to have.
And then you go to somebody that works their butt off every single day, 40-plus hours a week, and you can open their fridge. There's lots of shelf space in there. Go look at mine, which we've kind of changed the way we eat. We are more of a, what does Caitlin call it, like a single ingredient type of thing. Mm-hmm. So we don't buy any of the garbage anymore. She makes everything right there. So a lot of stuff we have doesn't need to be in the fridge.
For sure.
But there's times I open it and I'm like,
there's nothing to eat.
If anybody came in here, they would think we were starving to death. Like,
yeah.
They might start looking into it to see if our kids are actually getting to eat, you know, because it's kind of sad. But we have a different lifestyle of eating now. But these people, like there was a video on that Andy Frisella when the government was shut down, and they were going to take away the food stamps. There was a clip that they put on there, and it was a guy. He went on one of the, I want to say it was Twitter or X, whatever it is, and he just kind of did a little self video there, and he's like saying how he is so upset that these benefits are going to be taken away, and it's not right, and it is our job to go to work so that he can get those benefits so that he can feed his kids. Like, this guy literally said that, and you could see it in his face. He was mad. He was upset that those might be taken away from him. Younger guy, I don't know his age. I'd have to guess somewhere in our age, give or take a year or two. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, dude, you got to be freaking kidding me. You have been taught your whole life that this is how you're supposed to live. And you are zero asset to society.
Yeah.
Like, if that's the way you live, you shouldn't have kids.
No.
If you're not willing to go out and put in the effort and put in the work to take care of those kids, you shouldn't even have them.
No.
But now we have so many people that live that lifestyle. You know, and then they talk about taxes. When Andy Frisella breaks it down. When he first started talking about it, he says, we pay over 50% in taxes. Well, he started getting lit up. My taxes aren't 50%. Well,
maybe not your federal ones.
Well, he digs into it, and he says, okay, low IQ, closed mind. He's like, you got to think outside your income tax here. He says, I didn't say your income tax was 50%. You take whatever it is, and then you add on food tax, gas tax, sales tax, buying. You pay tax on everything. That's what I'm talking about when we're paying 50% in taxes. And then we find out that our tax money isn't even going to where it should be going to making this country a better place. It's going to other countries. A very small portion is staying there, and the rest of it is circling right back to where it came from, but it's staying in certain people's pockets.
Staying in Washington.
How does a politician with a salary of, what are they, like
It's $174,000.
$174,000 a year. you know what I'd do for $174,000? I'd love to make $174,000 a year.
That'd be awesome.
How do they go in there with a net worth of maybe 100,000, maybe, and they come out of there with a net worth of 20, 30, 40, $100 million?
Or you could be like Ilhan Omar and went in with debt, and now she's $30-40 million richer.
Did you see the
overnight.
scheme she just got caught in?
Mm-mm.
They just found out they've linked her to Somali fraud in Minnesota that was happening during COVID. I haven't heard the rest of the story yet. It just broke like a week ago.
Oh, okay.
But they've got something that ties her back into stealing money for certain. And her response was, well, when there's new programs, sometimes the rules aren't set right to prevent this type of stuff. And people's like, you're one of the ones that set the rules. You are in leadership. You are in Congress. So you're basically telling on yourself that you didn't set this up the right way. And it's like, oh no, they did. They set it up exactly how they wanted to set it up,
Yeah.
And again, I'll say this a bunch of times too. There's people on the right side of politics and the Republicans that are doing the same things.
And they're worse.
And they're just not getting exposed for it as much, I guess. Maybe they're a little sneakier about it. Maybe they're not wanting to put it out in the open.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just crazy. And that's another thing when you talk about common sense. Like I said, how does somebody go in with a net worth of next to nothing, and they're in government, some of them for 70 freaking years it feels like, and they come out with hundreds of millions of dollars of net worth on a $174,000 salary?
Yeah.
And not to mention they all live in multi-million-dollar homes, fenced-in compounds. You can't get... That's another thing. They want the borders open, but they won't open the borders to their own house, That just makes me laugh every single time. But... that's a common sense thing. That should tell you, okay, something's not right here. Even somebody, take somebody that makes $150 a year, for example, pretty close to 174, whatever it might be. Do they have 30, 40, 50, $100 million in the bank? Probably not. Probably not most of them. Some of them I'm sure do, maybe some business owner, stuff like that. Some of them I'm sure do. But most of them don't. They make that 150 a year and they kind of live on that. And sure, they probably have some nicer things. They might have a nice big house, whatever. But their net worth isn't going to be $100 million. Well, all you got to do is sit down and look at that and say, well, okay, what's wrong with this picture here? Even somebody that makes $174,000, same as a politician. Why does this person look like they're a billionaire and this person looks like he makes $174,000 a year?
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
No.
I don't know much about all this budget, politics, all that kind of stuff. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know that doesn't make any sense. And there's been other countries flat out say, well, yeah, we received X amount of money. We sent 6 times that. Where'd the rest of it go? Well, more and more is coming out. Trace it, look it up, find it. It comes right back to where it left from.
Yep.
Well, no, it didn't. It left from us. It comes right back to D.C.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you hear, like, Trump comes out and says, well, I think we need to just do away with the income tax. Why don't you do it then?
Be a good idea.
Why don't you do it? But then they talked about it the other day. Well, he can't do that. There's no way they'd ever pass it. You mean to tell me that they would get enough votes, enough of these people would go in there and vote against getting all that money?
No.
They're not going to stop their payday.
No. And if it's an executive order, it can be undone by an executive order.
Yeah, so an executive order is great for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But as soon as he's out, the next president could come in and do away with it.
And it will
well, that's just like the no tax on overtime and tips. That's only good while he's in office.
No, it was passed in Congress.
For good?
Well, it was in that. Well, it might have an expiration. All the bills they pass in Congress don't necessarily are indefinite. Some of them have, but that's why they had to. That's why they had to renew the tax cuts he made in his first term. Is because it had an expiration date of must have been the end of 2025. That's why they had to redo them. But I don't know if there's certain the way they do it. If you do it this period of time, and then I don't know exactly how all that works.
Well, I just remember when they first passed it, there was something that was, and maybe it wasn't true. I don't know, so don't take this to the bank. But they were saying that it's only for the time that he's in office. Well, so it'd be until 2028, right? Because he came in 24, so it'd only be until 2028.
Yeah,
and hopefully it's not. Hopefully it is in there, and that is because think about it. I'll just speak for myself here. During the summer, I average about 50 hours a week. Well, if I could have 10 of that every week that wasn't taxed, I'd be doing a lot better, And if that were the case, companies wouldn't have to worry about they still would, but maybe they wouldn't have to worry so much about not paying a guy so much or as much, because we all could use more money, all of us. When you think about how much things are costing us, everything, like the old Chuck out there needs some tires, and I am dreading every second of it because I'm about $2,000 for a set of tires. And it's like, oh my God, how do tires cost $2,000? What are tires made out of?
They just wear out.
Right? And what are they made out of?
Well, who knows anymore?
Well, right.
Rubber, but yeah.
Stuff that comes from the ground that we have oodles of.
Yeah.
Diesel. Can someone please explain to me why diesel is $3.70 something a gallon when it costs pennies to make?
Political.
Yeah.
It's
DEF.
political.
This whole DEF thing.
It's done away with.
Holy crap, dude. Are you kidding me? All that is two people that sat down and thought, dude, I've got an idea how we can make some cash here.
Yeah.
It does no good. It serves no purpose other than causing more repairs for your truck, which in the end costs you more money.
And it costs more to buy it.
Yeah. That crap's like, when you get it, you're only 6 or 7 gallons. It's not very big tanks on a pickup. No.
It's the up cost in the vehicle or piece of equipment or whatever, and the repairs and the downtime. The repairs. A DEF filter for a truck like mine, the filter itself is like $3,500. Yeah.
Just for the filter. Then you've got to pay a shop a 2-hour wage to pay it, or to swap it out for you.
Yeah.
For one stupid filter, you're probably looking at $4,500. Seriously?
Yeah.
And tires should not be costing $2,000. There is no freaking way that it costs that much to make those tires.
No.
And sometimes, ever since COVID happened, it just destroyed everything.
Yeah.
But I think some of it still is nothing but greed. I don't believe that everything we deal with on a daily basis as far as what we need costs that much.
No.
There's too much greed. It got marked up during COVID for supply and demand, they say, which maybe that's true.
A little bit of it.
But okay, we're not in COVID anymore. Why are we still paying 4 times what we used to pay pre-COVID?
It's hard for people to see that number go down.
That's just it. It's greed. They know that, well, crap, if I take that back down, I'm not going to make $500,000 this year. I'm only going to make $400,000. Okay, well, enjoy your $400,000 while I sit over here and freaking barely get by, you know?
Mm-hmm.
This whole mess. But the crappy thing is, it'll never change until Washington, D.C. is entirely flipped upside down and every single one of them are replaced. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
There's not a single person, not Trump, not Vance, none of them. They all need to be. Well, look what happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's about one of the only ones that I feel like was in there for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And she was... A guy asked a question the other day, so, maybe some of you guys don't know, maybe you don't care, but she ended up resigning. She's done in January of 26. She was somebody that went out and campaigned for Trump very hard, tried very hard to help get him elected in this last one. And then he turns around and calls her a traitor because she's questioning this whole Epstein stuff. That's the kind of stuff for me with Trump that I am a little upset about.
For sure.
People know me. They know I voted for Trump every time he's ran, and I don't care. That's fine. I told people who I was voting for, you know. But I don't like that. How does that make her a traitor for speaking out on something that she's not real sure about, and she's wondering why we can't get transparency on this stuff? When we've had some of the other stuff that's happened, like 20 million people coming into the country that are illegal, and she's the traitor?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. How does that math doesn't math to me.
Yeah, it's his personality. He's a fighter, and he's the big dog. He's always been the big dog, no matter if he's been, and it's just him, and
his ego gets in the way sometimes.
It's a character flaw,
Yeah.
And for me, it's not a maker. It's not a deal breaker. So
no,
it's not a big deal.
No, it's not. But it just kind of makes you wonder, like, dude, there's so many people that are on the fence about you already.
Yeah.
Well, you're not helping them cross the fence.
For sure.
You're kind of making them stay on the other side, you know?
Yeah.
Which, again, we don't all need to agree and support the same politician. That's fine. But when you're trying to, you tell people that this is what you want to do and you want to make life better for them, which the Epstein thing, that's not going to make any of our lives better. All that's going to do is bring out some truth of what really might have happened.
Yeah.
Our daily lives are not going to change because of whatever is in that.
And Trump's not involved in that, because if they'd had that, they'd have used it from day one.
That's what I've said too.
They wouldn't have had to make a fake dossier and all that stuff. It would have been Comey would have brought that out a long time ago.
All the stuff they went after him for, that they tried to go after him for,
is 100% false.
Yeah, and if he was in that, yes, that would have been the first thing they would have used.
And it would have took a week. He wouldn't have been a candidate no more. It would have been done.
Done deal.
So I know it's not true. And maybe she doesn't need to call him out publicly, and maybe she needs to be like, hey, like, what's your plan behind this?
Right.
You know, because he does have reasons for why he does things.
That's the thing about him. He's smart enough and he is successful enough that he has a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us, myself included, get a little frustrated sometimes, like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
But then you have to sit back for a minute and think, well, there's a reason for this, you know. There's people that think that he's had threats from outside the country against our country if he releases it. Who knows? Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't, maybe it's something completely different. But that's not, we just got to kind of...
Part of us, I think, as he wants to be able to be impactful and successful while the short time that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
And you can rock the boat somewhat, and you can expose some things. But if you upturn every single thing and get everybody out of office and create so much chaos, you're really not going to get the things done you need to get done.
Right.
So I think he's waiting until he's done, and then I think that's going to be released, and then it don't matter after that. Then because he'll be done, he'll be here to do the job that he got done. And he's finding the way that he can do it the best way. He still might have to keep some of the swamp creatures there.
Mm-hmm.
He has cleaned some of them up, but you still have to have some of them in there to make things go. You can't upend it all at once, because then nothing gets done. Then it's just a waste to even have him back in there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because there's not a Trump waiting in the shadows to take over where he left off.
Right.
So I think he's trying to be the most impactful person that he can, because he knows it's going to come to an end.
Well, and I hear a lot of people talking about when they write into these podcasts or they send messages, that one thing that they are frustrated with is the illegal migrant situation. Because they've done a lot of deportations and stuff, but a lot of people feel like they haven't done enough.
I'm one of them.
Because they say at the rate they're going right now, it'll take like 75 years to get all the illegals that's here out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why anybody has an issue with that, because you and I can't go to another country and just move in, start living off the government, have them pay for everything, and just live a great, happy, wonderful life. They don't allow it.
Well, here's how they sell it, I'll tell you. So one of Satan's greatest tools is what he does. Everything's not blood and guts, horrors. He doesn't do his best work that way. He does it by imitating things that are good. He makes things that are bad look good, and he makes things that are good look bad.
Mm-hmm.
So we play on people's sympathies, and we play on people's feelings.
Exactly.
Well, you want to starve these children because you don't want a Department of Education, or you don't want, this and this. No, it's nothing about starving children. The Department of Education is not in the Constitution, therefore the states need to take care of it.
Yeah.
Well, you want to starve children. Well, same thing with these they're asylum seekers. Well, you don't want to let people in. You're going to make children starve. You're pulling families apart. No, the law is that you have to enter our country legally, and if not, you need to be, taken out.
And look at all the ones that do enter legally.
Yeah.
How does that feel to them? I can only imagine how they feel, because it's time, it's money, it's a process.